If you've been telling yourself it is too late, I need you to hear something. That story is not protecting you. It is keeping you small. And you've been small for long enough. Welcome to The Joy Shift. I'm Kiley Suarez, life coach, romance novelist, recovering CPA, and the woman who did not start over. I just started at 52 with a full life already in motion. Before we go any further, if this show is new to you, hit follow right now. Not for me, because when you follow, the algorithm actually shows you the next episode. You're going to want it. So go ahead. I will wait. Okay, good. Now let's get into it. One quick thing before we go deeper. In this episode, I built a free quiz called the Permission Audit. 10 questions, 10 minutes. You get a custom map of what is in your way. The link is in the show notes. Here is what I see all the time: a woman who is smart, accomplished, and successful by every outside measure, who has quietly started to feel like she is living inside someone else's life. She is not in crisis. Nothing is catastrophically wrong. She just wakes up and thinks, is this it? And then she feels guilty for thinking it, because look at her, everything she has. Look at her life. Look what she's built. And the career question sits underneath all of it, always loud. Sometimes it is just a whisper at 11 p.m. I wonder if I could still. I wonder what would happen if. I wonder what I would be if I had started sooner. Today's episode is for the woman who has been having that conversation with herself in private, the one who's been waiting for someone to tell her she's not crazy for wanting something different. Because you are not crazy. You are just paying attention. And that's me telling you. I was a CPA. I worked at Arthur Andersen. And from there, I jumped to Dun& Bradstreet in New Jersey when we moved while my husband was doing his medical specialty. I built a career in numbers. And then I spent years running the back end of my husband's medical practice. And I'm talking about, I was competent. I was relied on. I was invisible just to myself because nobody was keeping me in that role. No one told me I could not do anything else. I'd accumulated so many responsibilities and so many identities, like wife, mother, office manager, the person who holds everything together, that I had stopped asking what I wanted. So I did not leave. I did not blow anything up. But in 2020, during the pandemic, when the whole world went quiet and, caved in and went to their own spaces, I started writing romance novels, in this case, in the evenings after the house got quiet. And I was 52 years old. I want you to sit with that for a second. Not because I think you should write romance novels, because that's not the message, but because I want you to notice I did not wait until I figured it out. I did not wait until the right time. I started because the cost of not starting had finally gotten higher than the cost of starting. And since then, I have actually published 5 novels under my pen name, Nikki Kiley. I got certified as a life coach, launched this podcast, and building a coaching service. I did not do any of that instead of my life. I did it alongside it. So that is the thing I want to talk about today, because when we hear the phrase midlife career pivot, we picture someone quitting something and starting from scratch, burning it all down. And for some women, that is exactly right. I mean, that could possibly be perfect. But for most of us, the pivot is not that dramatic. The pivot is just letting yourself want something out loud. Now, that is the thing I want to talk about today, and it has a name, and I call it the both and. It is the thesis of the book that I'm actually now currently writing. The idea is that you do not have to blow up your life to reach for more of it. The pivot is both and you can love what you have built and still want something else. So here is what I've learned working with women in midlife. The reason most of us do not make the move we've been thinking about is not that we lack skill. It's not that we lack opportunity. It's just that we've been waiting for permission that is never coming. I call this the permission trap. The belief that you need someone else's approval before you are allowed to want something different. Your spouse, your kids, your colleagues, the imaginary committee that you've got running in your head that decides whether your dream is practical enough to be worth pursuing. So nobody gave me permission to write novels. Nobody told me I had earned the right to reinvent. I had to give that to myself. And that is the hardest part, not the doing, the allowing. The second thing I see getting in the way is that what I call the identity archaeology. And all these terms and topics that I'm bringing up, I've brought up in different episodes of podcasts I've spoken about. But most women who feel stuck in their careers are not actually stuck. They are buried under decades of roles and expectations and survival decisions that made sense at the time, but have calcified into an identity that they did not actually consciously choose. There are three layers to this. The first is the survival self. That is the version of you that made smart, safe decisions when you needed to. And she took the job with benefits. She stayed in her lane. She also said yes to what was offered instead of asking for what she wanted. She kept everyone around her comfortable. Now, the second layer is the achieving self, and she is driven. She's accomplished. She hits her goals. She probably built a career that looked impressive from the outside, but she was achieving someone else's definition of success, or at least a version of it that you inherited and not designed. So the third layer, and that is what I call the original self, she's still in there. She's the woman who has the idea you never pursued, the career you talked yourself out of, the creative life you thought was not practical. And she's been waiting, not impatiently, just very quietly in the background. So pause here if you are listening and ask yourself, what would my original self be doing right now if I had not talked her out of it? When women come to me feeling like it's too late, what I actually hear is, I have been being my survival self for so long that I forgot I had a choice. And you do have a choice. The question is not whether it is too late. The question is, why do you keep asking that instead of asking what is next? Here is what I need to challenge the assumption that starting something at 45 or 52 or 60 puts you at a disadvantage. It does not. It gives you something a 25-year-old does not have. You have already survived the hard things. You know what you are under pressure. You have contacts, credibility, and contacts that took decades to build. So you have a clarity about what matters that only comes from having lived enough life to know what does not. Remember, Julia Child published her first book at 50. Vera Wang did not design her first dress until she was 40. And Toni Morrison published her first novel at 39. And before you say, well, those are exceptions, Kylie, and they are, but they are exceptions because most people give up on the idea before they test it, not because the timing was wrong. So the women I work with who make the most meaningful shifts in midlife are not starting from scratch. They are starting from experience. There is a difference. Starting from scratch means building something from nothing, where starting from experience means bringing 30 years of intelligence, resilience, and self-knowledge to something new. So that is not a disadvantage. That is your entire competitive edge. So here is where we get practical because I do not want to leave you inspired without somewhere to put this inspiration. I use something I call the 5% rule. The idea is simple. You do not have to change your whole life to start becoming a different version of yourself. You just have to give 5% of your time, your attention, or your energy to that thing that is actually calling you. 5% of your week is about 8 hours. That is 1 hour a day or 2 mornings a week. And that is enough to write a book. And I know because I did that myself. So I'm speaking from experience. It's enough to take a class, to build a client list, to launch a podcast, to get certified in something that actually matters to you. Most women I talk to are waiting until they have enough time to go all in. The enough time moment does not come. The pivot does not happen in one dramatic decision. It happens in small, kept promises to yourself over time. Your one action this week, name the 5% you have been avoiding. Okay. Not the whole pivot, just the first move. Write it down. Text it to someone who will not laugh. Then do it, actually. The shift does not start when you're ready. It starts when you stop waiting to feel ready. I want to say one more thing before I let you go. Wanting something different is not ingratitude. It is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are paying attention to your own life. The women who reach out to me are not ungrateful. They are not selfish. They are awake. They have built beautiful lives, and they are smart enough to know that a beautiful life should include them, not just everything that they have provided and managed and made possible for everyone else. So you deserve to be in your own story, not in the end of it or in the middle of it, right now, while there is still time to make it what you want. If today's episode also hit something real for you, if you found yourself also nodding, I would want to invite you to take that one more step, and it's go take that permission audit I spoke about in the first 5 minutes of this episode. It is 10 questions. It takes about 10 minutes, and you will find out which layer of the permission trap is holding you back and what to do about it. It is free. The link is in the show notes. Because remember, again, knowing changes nothing, but choosing changes everything.